Welcome to the Own Your Education podcast, where we're putting the pedal to the metal on families and founders who are in the driver's seat on doing education differently. Because learning isn't one size fits all. What if your kid's education was molded around your life instead of the other way around? Here we talk to people who've tossed that rulebook right out the window. I'm your host, Ryan Clem. Let's go for a ride. Today I'm talking to Shawna Hein, the founder of Northfield Academy, which focuses on giving a well-rounded classical liberal arts education to every student by upholding the traditions of a classical education. Shawna has 2 teen children and homeschooled them both. Her son is neurodivergent, and in kindergarten she realized he needed something different, which began her homeschooling journey. When her daughter was in 7th grade, she actually requested to go to school, which led their family to a classical school. Today, Shawna runs Northfield Academy, where she inspires students to see the good and love the good. We'll dive into exactly what that means in today's episode. So what is your favorite Shakespeare piece?
Oh my gosh, that's tough. I'm going to go with Romeo and Juliet, just because that was the first one I taught, and we had so much fun with it that it was just, I don't know, it was a blast. And it was kind of my introduction back into it from college.
What was your degree in college?
Elementary education.
Okay.
But I had an emphasis in English literature. So I had taken some Shakespeare classes that I really loved. So even when I was doing elementary education, I would get those, the books where it's like Shakespeare, but for kids, and put on a couple plays with the kids for that. And like when I taught 3rd grade. So
that's fun. So one thing I wanted to chat with you about, and this really jumped off the page when, I'd asked you, what do you think is essential for children to learn? Maybe Shakespeare is part of that, but you had said they need to discern what is good and then love the good.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
So I sat with that one for a long time because I was like, what do I think? Like, what does it all boil down to? And just yesterday, we had a speaker, Mr. Sturgill, who's amazing and teaches at Mary Seat of Wisdom across the street also. And 8th Day Books, I'll put a plug in for them.
Yeah, they're great.
He was giving a speech, or a convocation is what we call them, to the kids, and talking about future. And part of the word is esse, I think it was. And it boils down to like the future, or excuse me, not the future. It boils down to the essence, to be the essence in the future, like, the FU, the future part is the part is like going into the future, but the essence of it, and just thinking about the core of things and what they are and the to be-ness of a human. And so that's where my mind was going, because we just had that speech yesterday. And so I was like, what does it all come down to? And really what it is for us in our school is, if you can start to look for the things that are truly good and good for you to grow and good for your soul, and learn to love those, which is a very Dante-esque divine comedy type of thing, which is another one of my passions, is teaching Dante. And so the essence of the things is helping kids to discern those things and just learn to love them by looking at beautiful things, sitting with beautiful things, reading beautiful things, taking time to enjoy them. Some classical schools will have a reading list where I'm like, oh my goodness, how are you getting through like 10 to 15 really deep, like you're doing Plato and you're doing all the things and you have the list, but maybe I don't know how you could sit with it and really take the time to go in deep and dig into what's behind it and what the meaning is, and just really enjoy it if you go through so fast, or if the kids are reading it on their own. Another thing we do at our school is a lot of the reading we do is together, because so much of the ancient things were meant to be oral.
Like read out loud.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're thinking like the Iliad or Odyssey, those would have all just been sung for years and years and years. So people would have experienced it in community, and they would have experienced it by listening, and it would have been more in a story and like poetic and with rhythm.
Right.
So the more we can do that together as a group and like talk about what it would have meant in the time. So it wouldn't have been like, oh, this really challenging thing. It would have just been a story that you're all listening to together and you're all making sense of together and processing. So I think that is really the thing that flips it for kids is when they just start to love it. A story from my daughter who goes to the school. It was a really like a moment that stuck with her that she's mentioned many times. We do a lot of etymology and studying words and going into the roots. And she was just in bed and like thinking, and she was going to have a birthday soon. And she's like, I should have a party. And she's like, wait, what's the root of the word party?
Oh, I love that.
And so she was like trying to use her Latin knowledge to like go back. And then she's like, oh, I think I've been Northfielded. And that was like her moment where she was like, the school has like, it's sunk in and I've got it. Like I'm getting it now.
Yeah, it's ingrained in her.
Yeah. And another of our students, we do a thing called a Kedis form, which is just the way we fill out basically taking notes. And it has etymologies and like a schema where you're connecting it to the things you know. And one of our students was like, I feel like I think in Kedis form now.
I love that.
So it's like helped her organize.
It's like dreaming in a different language.
Yeah.
You know?
And it just kind of organizes your mind in a way of like connecting to the things you know and going deeper with everything. And that's what I've loved so much about the school. And
so you had mentioned that they grew up homeschooling. Your son was homeschooled and your daughter was, I believe, through 7th grade. Can you talk a little bit about why you chose to homeschool?
Yeah. So my son is neurodivergent and dyslexic. And I was getting my reading specialist degree when he was in kindergarten. And so I was seeing how they were teaching reading. And I was like, this is, we're like getting all this research and I'm doing all these things. And it wasn't necessarily being done in that way. So in my mind, it would be this quick little like, okay, we'll pull him out and get him caught up. And it was a very humbling experience because it did not go like that.
And how old was he at the time?
He was 5.
Okay.
Maybe 6, because it was halfway through kindergarten. So we kind of just jumped into homeschooling thinking it would be like this quick fix turnaround, and it wasn't really. And I had to do a lot of like going back to the beginning, and I went to Fundamental Learning Center.
Yeah.
And he eventually got a tutor, and then I got into dyslexic tutoring on my own through that. But rewind a little bit. As far as homeschooling, another thing, he was really struggling with like sensory issues at school, like the lighting was a lot, or like sandpaper in music class, and he'd always loved to learn. Like it was challenging to keep him alive sometimes because he'd be like learning about electromagnets, and he was like, Mom, I wrapped this copper wire around my around this battery because I was trying to make an electromagnet, and then I plugged it into the wall socket.
Oh dear!
Like,
Please ask first.
Yeah, like it was an intense love of learning and a desire. Like for his 3rd birthday, he wanted to have a volcano party, and
I love that.
Yeah. So, and I was seeing that light go out, and so that was another thing where we were like, I don't know that this is a great fit for him. I don't know that he's thriving in this environment. So that put us into homeschooling, and then we were able to do co-ops, and I found that I could teach more freely too. So all the things I'd imagined I wanted to do when I was a teacher, like all these grand plans, then I went into school and it was mapped, and it was like, you have to be on this page on this day and this test at this time and these facts. And it wasn't just a living environment where you could go where the spirit of learning goes. Like you could follow, if someone was interested in something and the kids all lit up, you could just go that direction, And then in homeschooling and co-ops, I was able to find that again and be like, oh, okay, my love of learning was sparked again. And then it brought it back for Drayden. And so that's what set us off on that journey.
Yeah. It's interesting. You're certainly not the first person who has said just through the homeschooling experience, like it's ignited a love of learning in the parent as well. And just how fun that is, right?
Yeah.
To be that lifelong learner and to be kind of alongside your child as they're learning too.
And it's like you get a whole nother education because you learn it again as an adult, and it's a whole different view. And I loved it. And then to do it at another level, when I started teaching at the school, it was like, a whole nother level of opening things up and going deeper, because I'd never had a classical education or the liberal arts. So
Right. And that was kind of my question. My next question was, you're homeschooling and you're doing what you need for your son. At that point, were you being inspired yet by classical education, or did that come later?
not at all. That came quite a bit later. There was like classical education, there's homeschool programs, and they seemed very removed and very challenging, because it's like, oh, you have to do Latin, and I hadn't ever been exposed to Latin and didn't have any like I was like, I don't know why that would be even valuable. And then we kind of fell into just the curriculum that I found for him had some of that in it, but I didn't really know it. I didn't really understand the bigger picture of it. But yeah, that came later when Kieran decided she wanted to go to school.
This is your daughter?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So in 6th grade, during the
she
middle
was
of COVID,
advocating for going to school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. She was like, I really want to go to school. And I was like, great, but it's the middle of COVID. And even if we enroll
Not
you,
a great time, honey.
even if we enroll you, you'll just be at home homeschooling through the school. So I started just looking into options. We weren't necessarily wanting to put her in public school. And then I came across Northfield, and my husband came across it because it's been a thing for like 35 years.
Right.
I'm doing a new thing with it.
Right.
And building it kind of in a new direction. But we found it at the time. And so we're like, well, I mean, let's just try it. So she takes a while to like get used to things, and she doesn't necessarily want to jump into things or try like meet new people generally. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll just try it. Maybe you could do part-time if you're interested. So we went, and he had just called the day before. I had called like a month ago, and then he's like, hey, this is Nathaniel, who was the headmaster at the time. And he was like, hey, do you want to just come in tomorrow and try a class? And I was like,
oh, wow.
I mean, I'll ask. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And so we went in and we sat in on the class, and I was like, oh, this is great. Like, the kids were just so involved, and they seemed so interested and like in it. And it was just a great class. And I talked to Kieran after, and she's like, I want to go there full time. And
Wow.
she jumped in and never looked back.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's amazing.
it was great.
And she's probably like a junior now?
She is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a junior now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So clearly it's been a good thing for her.
Yes. It's been incredible. I mean, it just opened up her education, her joy of learning. She just blossomed and took even her interests as far as like art and theater. She's dug deeper and just really taken those in some really awesome directions.
So when she decided to go from homeschooling to being in a school environment, was your son still homeschooling at that time?
He was.
Okay.
And he decided that he just wanted to continue with homeschooling and stay on that path. So, because he was a junior at the time. And so it would have been.
That's a big switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting that both your kids had different needs. And as a parent, you were willing to say, hey, I recognize that. And you guys don't have to do the same thing.
Yeah. And that I love that about homeschooling and the micro schools. Even within our community, we have a lot of families that have their kids going to different schools, or some are homeschooling and some are with us. And like, we still want to include them in our community and the bigger community and invite them to things. But it's nice that they can find the things that fit for them.
Right. Right. And what does your daughter want to do after Northfield? Does she know?
I don't know that she knows for sure.
Okay.
She loves theater and would like to be involved in that, but she's not 100% sure like that could be a career path or something like that. But and she's just very interested in the arts and writing and those types of things. She's thinking maybe communications degree or something along those lines. So we'll see.
Yeah. And what about your son?
He is kind of doing entrepreneurial things.
Oh,
he opened
great.
a shaved ice stand last summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because he's like, I don't really ever want to work for someone. So we're like, okay, well, what could you do? So he's kind of starting that business and leaning into that and seeing how that goes, and then maybe open more businesses or things like that.
That's amazing. At just 19 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to start a business.
Yeah. It was pretty fun. We ate way too much shaved ice this summer, but it was
Well, you'll have to
so
let me
good.
know where it's located because I have some family members who really love the shaved ice stands.
Yes. Well, it's Glacier Bliss, and it's
Glacier
in
Bliss.
El Dorado.
Okay.
So it's a little out of the
Yeah.
way, but
Yeah.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Do you feel like his whole experience homeschooling kind of led to this, just in terms of thinking outside the box and kind of going where his motivation was?
Yeah, I definitely think that it helped him not be crushed by the expectations of just what's expected normally in society. It was like, well, I'll just do what works for me and I'll figure out the path that I need to take, and it's totally fine to be in different places at different times and maybe not go to college if that doesn't work, or those different kinds of things. It definitely helped support him in that.
And you had said, in terms of what you felt was essential for your children to learn, which I thought was really beautifully said, is to be born in wonder.
Yeah. And that's just straight from the school, because our motto is Nascanter and Admiratione, and that means let them be born in wonder in Latin.
Wow.
So that's a huge part of it. And I think we've, like, as a family, I think we've always tried to do that. And that's where I was at with, like, when I saw his spark dimming when he was young in kindergarten. And I think that's what it was. I just didn't have the words for it to, and I guess the vision to conceptualize it, and going to that school just kind of brought it together. And it's like, oh, this is kind of what we've been looking for as a family all this time, is just having that awe of beautiful things and the good things, and yeah, taking time with them. And it's really just, it's been a really cool experience.
I love that, being in awe of beautiful things. And I'm really curious about how your family lives that outside of the Northfield and the school experience. Like, how does your family stay in awe of beautiful things?
Well, how do we stay in awe of beautiful things? So I think we've always loved, like, outdoors and nature and going on walks together. One of our favorite things is to go to Oregon. We've been twice, but just to go to the ocean and go on walks there, and just,
I've heard Oregon's beautiful.
Oh, yes. It's very gorgeous. And even before that, we would go to Colorado or things like that. So I think that, and we've just always spent a lot of time together and playing games and talking about things. We played this, like, it's kind of like a little game where you say the things you've done and you try to find something unique that no one else has done. It was when we first joined the school, and one of the kids was like, I've never sat at the table and talked about philosophy for hours on end with my family. And I was like, oh, we can actually join that one. So yeah. So I think just kind of like deep talks and those kinds of things, just playing with ideas. And another thing that we kind of learned from my son was just he could see right through any kind of manipulation or things that didn't feel truthful and honest. And, like, in a lot of ways, we didn't know a lot of the things we were doing or thinking about, like, weren't maybe truthful or honest, or what our motivations were behind it. So we had to really question all that and just
When he was growing up.
Think about, like, what was essential and what could we let go of, and what were we pushing maybe for a reason that wasn't the best reason necessarily, or an important reason even. It's just because it's what people do,
right?
Typically,
right.
But to just really question every move we made and
right,
those types of things.
And maybe that goes back to seeing the good, right?
Yeah.
Which I think maybe there's also a part of that is, like, what is necessary, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are we? Because sometimes, I think we all in our own lives, you get stressed about something. You're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And it could be something as simple as, like, I'm trying to get my daughter to wear this outfit, this thing we're going to, and she doesn't want to. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Like, just wear what you want to wear.
Yes.
Just kind of questioning what your own motivations are.
Yes. So much that. And that coming back to the school a little bit, what sparked, as you were saying that, is that's another thing we really try to focus on is, why are we here? What is the purpose? And even within our rules, like the 7 simple rules, we spend the first week is called orientation, and we really go deep and spend time with it. Why are we doing it this way? Why do we have these rules? What's the purpose? What do you think the purpose is? And one of the things I really fell in love with at the school also is when I was teaching Inferno, one of the kids was like, why do we even need to learn this? And I was like, let's just stop and talk about why we need to learn this. Like, let's pause here. And so we started talking about it, and I was kind of going into my reasons. And then the kids, like, one by one, each going around, like, had a reason why they thought it was important and why we are learning in this way. And I was like, oh, these kids, they're invested and they really know. And just to see it, that was kind of my first, where I was like, oh, this is different here.
Yeah.
And this is a really cool experience.
Well, and I think that's probably ultimately what you want to see is like the class answering, learners answering.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And feeling empowered to say what they think.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, kind of shifting gears into your role as a founder and an educator. It sounds like you're still teaching as well as you wear your founder hat. And you probably have a mix of students who are kind of coming in from different backgrounds. Maybe they've never been into a traditional school, maybe they have, and maybe things weren't working. What would you say, once they get to Northfield, like what are some transformations that you've seen with your students?
I would say the biggest transformation, we had a student come in that he was just really struggling with kind of fitting in. We have that a lot, like kids that maybe their interests don't align, or they don't feel like they fit in at public school, or they have a different learning style. And this particular student came in and it was like definitely learned in a different way. In a lot of schools, you'd make an IEP and you'd have a plan. I kind of thought in my mind, because I'd done a lot of reading tutoring, this is probably going to need to be like some intense, a year of reading tutoring. And there are just some deficits there. But we just kind of threw him in, and he like just got comfortable with people and started to just slowly interact more and more. And over a year, I would say there was probably 3 to 4 grade levels of improvement of just having been reading out loud with the group and being involved in the discussion, not pulled out for like special education or different types of learning.
Interesting.
And he's just really thrived at this school, and I've seen so much improvement.
And how old was he when he came in?
I think he was a freshman.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So even in the high school years, there's still, room for that type of growth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I see that with a lot of students where they just hit a point where it just kind of like explodes and they're like, oh, okay. And that's why the answer came to me as like, love the good, is like, it's not trying to put things in them, and be like, okay, you need to have this information and we have to get it in you in this way. It's what you really just want it to turn, and for them to be like, oh, I see why this is valuable and I love it and I enjoy it. And it's just a good thing to do. And then they'll do it on their own. They'll go out of their way to get the information. They'll, take part in the conversations and the reading and those types of things.
Yeah. So. What you're describing to me, it almost sounds like kind of paring some things back and really kind of focusing on intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
And what really matters. And it sounds like for this student, perhaps he was feeling a lack of connection, a lack of inspiration. And then voila.
Yeah.
The environment changed, and so did he.
Yeah. Yeah. And we really see that with a lot of students. So it's been really cool to be involved in and see.
Yeah. And how many students are at Northfield now?
We've kind of had a shift. I think we're at 21 full-time, and then we have like 4 part-time that come in just for some classes. So we're very small at the moment.
Yeah. But that's
we also like
that. There's a lot of great things about being small.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do intentionally keep it small. This is a little smaller than the goal is. We'd like to be more around 40, but definitely there's a lot to like having a small class size and keeping your community feel. And it's in houses, so we can't grow beyond
Right.
what fits in there comfortably.
So it doesn't probably feel like a traditional school for the students, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
It
I
does
would say
not.
it definitely doesn't.
Yeah. Do you think that that's a positive?
I think for the most part, it's positive. I know that a big challenge that we haven't figured out how to overcome quite yet is like for kids who want to do sports or want to have more interaction with like theater or clubs or the extracurricular things, it's hard to meet those needs when you have so few students. And there's like this weird gap where there's like, oh, there's homeschool sports, but you guys go to school too much to be involved in that.
Interesting. Okay,
And
right.
then they can do, now it's, the law has changed so they can be involved in the public school sports.
Okay.
But, you know, just time wise and energy wise, as far as like,
Yeah.
because those are like usually practice every day and it's at a certain time, and which can be a little bit challenging. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
things like
Maybe
that.
you could band together with some microschools in town.
And we've kind of tried to do that, and it's fallen through
lot
as of
of
yet.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot
But
of
hopefully we'll get that organized between schools a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are the parents, you know, maybe they've switched their child from a traditional environment and now they're going to a non-traditional environment and they're kind of leaning into this classical approach. Is that hard for some parents at first? Or are they kind of like, wow, I'm just so perplexed and this is amazing?
I know for myself and the other parents, most of the parents I know, and I came into it like this was already an established place. It was called Studium at the time and was a
Right.
different the foundation of it was different. I changed it from an LLC to a 501c3. But so the traditions and all the things were already there. So the majority of parents that I knew were very lit up and excited about it. I would say like most people are looking for something different typically when they get to us, and they've looked at our website and they've looked at things.
Coming in pretty informed.
Yeah. But I still think even just seeing it from the outside, it's still like there's always a deeper level you could go to. Like even in where I'm at now, there's so much more I could be learning. We've got a gentleman, Stan Cox, who's doing like continuing education for adults and he's doing a Dante series coming up this month. So you can always continue on in that. But I think it's kind of like jumping in the deep end of a pool where you at first,
Yeah.
especially for the students too. Like we had 3 new students just start in January, and I was like,
Oh,
I promise, like everybody feels like this. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming, and it feels like
for the students.
yeah, it's just like to jump into something so tight, like where there's such a strong community and the kids are listening to these pretty high level, like philosophical
Right.
conversations and following it, or they're reading Shakespeare and they fluently and they get
Yeah,
it.
I
And then
could
to come
imagine
in,
that
you're
could be
like,
kind of intimidating.
yeah. So I always just tell them like, just sit with it and
Uh-huh.
just kind of like give yourself grace and know that it'll sink in and you'll start to get it. And I think it's kind of the same for the parents. You just kind of have to dive in and just sit with it, listen to what your kids are saying is going on, come
Right.
to as many events as you can. And
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that just hearing about that story you told about the freshman boy who, you know, had some deficits and made up a lot of ground and was
Yeah.
really thriving, do you feel like a classical approach, like, is it really beneficial for neurodivergent learners? Or would you say it just kind of depends on
I think
the child?
it can be a really good fit for a lot of neurodivergent learners because, and this is something I've worked with a lot of kids that have learning differences, and something I see commonly for my son and a lot of others, they want to understand the whole thing and they don't want to move on until there's a whole picture that makes sense. So for him, learning language was hard because he couldn't see the purpose of a lot of the things and he didn't have a grasp of the whole system. And so until he could build that whole thing up, it was frustrating and hard to move on. So I think a lot of the holistic learning where we try to, instead of just having parts where you're not just learning like math here and science here, and we still just logistically do that.
Right.
But there's a lot of tying things together and looking at the patterns of things and the whole picture.
I totally get what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
really, instead of just kind of doing surface level with a lot of different things, you're really taking that deep dive on,
Yes.
on one thing, and hey, here's how it relates to this other thing that we're taking a deep dive on.
Yeah.
So it probably, to your point, feels like a more complete picture, and then you're answering that question continually on why it matters.
Yeah. And I think just for a lot of kids that it's hard to move on and just learn your math facts if they don't understand why, and they don't, and they're not being able to connect it into real life or into like a bigger picture.
Right.
A lot of times that's hard. And something I also see is learning in story form and the way that human minds have evolved and changed over the, like what we're made to, how we're made to learn, and just diving into like the real story, not necessarily real, but the stories of things and the mythology and things that have just, the fairy tales have stood the test of time and are really aligned with how people think and grow because it's, the things that have lasted. So I really think for all learners, it can be more natural and less just helter-skelter and hard to connect to things.
It reminds me of a quote that is, you can entertain without informing, but you can't inform without entertaining. To your
That's
point on
interesting.
like, it has to be, story based, right? That's
Yes.
entertaining.
Yeah.
And just beauty is entertaining, right?
Yes.
Inspiration is entertaining.
I love that.
It's not mine.
It's beautiful. And another thing that I was thinking as you said that was like hospitality is the thing I've been thinking about a lot too, and just setting your environment so that when students come in, like, how you go to some people's house and you just feel like energized because they know how to be hospitable and they make you feel welcome and they make you feel like comfortable.
Yeah.
And I really want that to be what our classrooms feel like also, where they come in and it's like you're adding energy to the room and not like pulling from it. So and doing that themselves, they put on a lot of the events we have. Like we have Coffee House where they sing and they put on performances and they read poetry, and just it's a whole entire event that the kids mostly plan and organize and put together. And
A lot of skills at play there.
Yeah. So they're
amazing.
learning to do that as well as just how to relate in the world and not just the facts of things, I suppose.
Right. It's a holistic experience from top to bottom. So one thing we like to ask guests we have on the podcast is what myths they would like to bust about non-traditional education.
Yes.
And you had a great one.
Okay, I don't remember
And
what
you
it was.
said,
so
well,
I'm
I
glad
have
you
it.
do.
You said it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but it does take creativity.
Yes. That one, I hesitated to put that almost because it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but a lot of times when you do things without the money involved, it's a lot of energy and effort. So I have found like there are scholarships and there are places that are trying to help people have opportunities for different types of education. There's ACE scholarships, which have been very helpful to a lot of our families. It pays half of our tuition a lot of times. Some of the kids will get half. They're not always easy to get, but there are things like that out there. And then a lot of parents will teach at the school or do other things for the school. We have a gentleman that's he's incredible and does so much. And for part of the tuition, he is kind of our groundskeeper that just does all the things and more.
Yeah.
Like before I even ask for it, he's got
So
stuff
you're kind of
done.
almost like trading services.
Yeah. So there's creative things you can do like that. And then as far as like in the homeschooling community, there's different ways you can go about doing things. I think some of that's going to be sacrificed probably in like, we had to give up one of our incomes for me to be able to homeschool. And then it seemed very impossible for our daughter to go to private school. But then I started teaching there and we got an A scholarship. So I think it's more possible than people think if you're really willing to be creative and look for all the sources and talk with people and get connected. And I think Wichita is really ahead of the game as far as having those things in place. We have lots of micro schools and lots of people who are really working to make that happen behind the scenes. So I think if you start to look probably at Vela, their resources. I know there's the WISE, the Wichita Innovative Schools and Education, has all kinds of resources for people that are interested or trying to do those things.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes. Yes.
Especially if you're a motivated parent.
It's that loving the good. Like if you love it enough and you're willing to like really work for it, it's out there and it doesn't have to take money.
Yeah. That's really well said. Love the good. And I love this conversation as well. Thank you so much for coming on. And it sounds like you've built an amazing program and wish you the best in 2026.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening today. If it challenged your way of thinking or gave you that little bit of courage you were looking for, be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, you don't have to be on this journey alone. If you want to connect with like-minded founders and parents, download the Vela app in the App Store or Google Play. Own your education and your life will follow.